watch list and no-fly list. It's my understanding one of your field offices interviewed them. What was gleaned from that interview or interviews?
I can't discuss the specific ongoing investigations. Certainly, we are concerned about, and our Joint Terrorism Task Forces, which I think is what you're driving at, have been lashed up with both CBP at the border and to some extent working across the border with our LEGAT office in Mexico City with a specific focus on special interest aliens. We're looking in particular at Yemenis, for example, who may have tried to come in. But I'm not sure there's anything I can share about specific interviews in this kind of setting.
People from countries of particular concern for terrorist activity, you mentioned a few of them, Yemen, Pakistan, Somalia, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and Iran have been coming. I witnessed it recently during my trip to the Darien Gap in Panama, and I would just say, when you talked about, your quote was the source of the problem, which you cited the Northern Triangle, I would go a little further south than that, because when I went down to Panama, I saw it down there. And the invasion coming into the United States has exploded as a direct result of President Biden's promise to all comers that he will grant them unobstructed catch and release into the United States. Should Americans have national security concerns with the exponential increase in the worldwide migration occurring as we speak across our southern border?
Well, certainly we consider security threats at the border to be an opportunity for potential terrorist activity. I would not want to leave you with the impression, though, that as we're sitting here, that we're tracking any specific credible terrorist threats coming from recent individuals crossing the border.
That doesn't give me a lot of assurance when you have tens of thousands of people basically invading our country. The numbers are staggering. They're coming out every single day. That would not be reassuring to me if I heard that answer as an American. I want to go on to a second issue I'd like to cover. Our two-tiered justice system. This is something I hear regularly back home. Time and again, Americans have witnessed justice being carried out in unequal ways. I'll give you a couple of examples. Secretary Hillary Clinton destroying evidence, no consequences. Hunter Biden allegedly lying on his firearms background investigation, no consequences. FBI attorney, former FBI attorney, you probably know, Kevin Kleinsmith, getting probation for lying in order to secure renewal applications to the FISA. And on top of that, we have the amorous couple, Page and Strzok, who I'm sure you know, that were actively trying to put their fingers on the scales in an election in 2016. None of these citizens had their homes raided, but they all have one thing in common. They are Democrats. Conversely, your agents have approached conservatives very differently. They've executed dramatic raids on the homes of Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Rudy Giuliani, and were negligent in the investigation of General Flynn. These citizens all had one thing in common. They're Republicans. I'm leading to a question that happened here in Wisconsin. A man named Burnell Trammell was murdered in broad daylight in Milwaukee last year. His sin was he was a Trump supporter. Now, earlier, when you heard some people listing examples of minorities who have been killed here in the United States, which is a terrible thing, they never mentioned Burnell Trammell, African-American man from Milwaukee, well known for going around his neighborhood, wearing a Trump shirt, showing a Trump sign. No one ever mentions him. It's my understanding his murderer is still at large, and the local government has remained quiet on this matter, despite actively encouraging anti-Trump rhetoric and protests all last year. A request was made to launch a federal probe into Mr. Trammell's murder, as it seems to have been politically motivated. Director Wray, have you answered that request and investigated that politically motivated hate crime of Burnell Trammell?
I'm not sure that I can address that in this setting. Certainly, I'm happy to follow up with our Milwaukee office to see what the status of that particular issue is. I don't know the circumstances well enough to be able to speak to it. I can assure you that we have one standard, and I've been crystal clear